audio, and until I was right about it until it cut off. But
Yeah, it happens. I mean, that's.
I could have kept the something playing radio.
I think Blackwatch actually experimented trying to do that, and I don't think that works. I think it has to be. Oh, I lost 3 subscribers. I'm down to 111. I think it has to be actual physical someone speaking. I think. I don't know.
Well, the way I have my capture card set up, my capture card shows up as a microphone inside of Zoom. I can select it as a microphone inside of Zoom. So I would think I would be able to select my capture card and then be able to just play any sound that comes through my computer, the radio or just
right.
music or whatever,
Right.
will be detected as if somebody was talking.
Maybe. I'm not sure. One of these days I might do a little experiment and just go on.
But if I start a meeting, and I'm the only one, and as the host, if I'm the only one that joins the meeting and no one else does, that meeting will stay open as long as I leave it open.
About 3 days, yeah.
It'll stay open as long as I keep it open.
Well, you remember that fake account we made on Zoom so I could try the green screen out last week or the week before? That stayed on for about 3 days, and then it finally just shut off. And obviously nobody's ever going to join that because it's not a workable.
So the whole 40-minute idle rule of no audio only applied once somebody joins. If nobody says anything,
oh, I would guess so, but I just know.
40 minutes, it'll quit. But if nobody joins, it will apparently stay on for 3 days.
Yeah, at least 3 days, because I kept checking it from time to time to see where it was sitting, and it was still active. Let me change the scene here. It was still active after 2.5 days, and on the 3rd day when I went to check it, it was no longer active. So I'm just guessing it's about a 3-day limit. So rather late start tonight for some of us, or early start for those of us on the West Coast or in Las Vegas.
Yeah, we just had a bowl of cereal tonight. Basically, we went out for brunch today at a place we like, and had a big brunch. And Grandma's gone to bed. My daughter is here. She tested negative for COVID, and so she's here looking after her kids.
Good.
So,
yeah, we got
I
home.
fall asleep, no matter.
We got home and looked at a house, and it was kind of a nice house and decent, 8.5 miles away, and we both kind of liked it, even though it didn't have a garage. But then 3 little letters of HOA, no longer in the running.
Depends on the HOA. We're in one here, and they really don't do much. They don't charge a lot, so. But you gotta know what you're getting into.
Yeah, the only one I've ever been involved with when I lived in California, and it was $300 a month, and it was worthless.
This one is about $45 a quarter.
That would be all right. Hey, Tony.
And they basically don't do anything except look after a little landscape around the entrances of the subdivision and paint a few walls.
Yeah, and tell you when you can fly your flag and what kind of flag you can fly, and how go out there and measure the grass. Well, you guys don't have grass, so. Good evening, Tony. Good to see you. Good to see you.
I ask, is that for like all these subdivisions you see around, or like a whole bunch of houses that look pretty much the same?
Yeah, you are restricted on what you can paint your house and that sort of thing. They don't all have to be the same, but there's a color palette that's selected at the beginning when the builder makes a subdivision, and you have to get permission to change it.
Wow.
So
I got a question for Gary right off the bat.
Mm-hmm.
It was posed to me today, how do you do an Amazon store? And I said, no clue, but I will ask Gary tonight because I believe he's either got a store or has knowledge of that. So, how do you start an Amazon store?
I don't remember, but you do go to the Amazon store. The only thing that makes it quite difficult, and you have it with your store there, not your store, but your YouTube thing, is they want you to have a website.
Oh,
But it can be one page. I don't mean to insult Alex, but like Alex's website would qualify.
it would or would not?
Would.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. When my dad went to get his business stuff, his business license and his name and all that set up, the woman that he talked to said you've got to have a website. It can have anything on it, but you have to have a website.
Seen some lagging going on the stream just then. I wonder what that was all about. I haven't seen that in a while.
Because basically it's not that hard, because there's one caveat though, is if you start selling stuff or use it yourself for 3 to 5% discount, depending how they'll set you up,
Right.
which is fine, they will consider that earned income to you. And it'll be
Ah.
taxable. So your discount will be taxable to you.
Brings me to an interesting question I've run into. When I donate to Doug or Carrie by PayPal, I get a choice. Am I sending money to a friend, or am I sending money to a business for something I've received?
Right.
I put the friend thing.
Right, because that way they don't have anything taken out of it. Friends and family, there's no charge for that on PayPal.
I don't know what the powers that be would think of that, but I'm not getting anything back tangible.
No, but it's
from my viewpoint, they might consider that knowledge or whatever might be something worth paying for. I don't know.
Yeah. Hey, Rick, did you get notification tonight?
No.
No, I had to go to your page.
Huh. Robert, now I just glanced at chat and Robert says notification worked tonight. You two did not. Robert did. That's funny. Not funny, but it's funny.
I didn't get a notification on YouTube either.
Huh.
I did.
I got one.
Weird. Very weird.
Now, I don't get a notification per se, but when you start streaming, it'll pop up on my.
It does on mine. One question I was asked is, Ken, do you have your videos coming up as unlisted?
Do what?
Do you have your videos coming up as listed or unlisted? I think for notification, I think someone told me, I think he's full of shit, but he said for that to work right, he has to have it unlisted. Not unlisted, but it has to, something Kerry did as a test to see if people would get the notifications, and he said something that his theory was right. This was a year or two ago.
Well, I always make sure they're public unless it's from the phone, and I can't control that right now. So that's weird.
I'm looking at your page, Ken. It says I'm subscribed and the bell is on.
Right. I check mine all the time. I still don't get anything. So everyone laughed the other night when I said, do I have to report the income from the Amazon gift cards? It might not happen this year, but I'll bet you within the near 3 to 5 year future, you'll have to report Amazon gift cards you receive over a certain dollar amount as income.
Well, I would bet.
If it's high enough.
I bet Terry theoretically should be doing it now.
Yeah, I mean,
you received some money from a friend for your birthday.
Yeah.
right.
Normally, that would be other income on your tax return, I suppose.
And they'll caveat it with it has to be over, let's just say $1,500. You know, as long as you're under a $1,500 threshold, you're good. But once you hit 1,501, then it's got to be reported. And then it comes.
It's like, it's like did you hear about the IRS this year, which is it's been that way about 100 years, literally, where if you were selling drugs on the side, heroin, you have to claim that on your taxes.
You got to claim that was it.
Oh yeah.
It's income.
But
Now they got Al Capone.
Exactly. Everybody thinks, oh Lord, that's not the new. That's how they have Capone, but 27, 29.
I didn't see that, but what I did see today that I find interesting, that I believe it was New York City or New Jersey, I don't remember which, is actually going to put on the ballot and vote on having a safe, air quotes, safe place to go to shoot heroin and other narcotic drugs with no fear of repercussions.
That'll work.
Mhm.
Where do they pay for their drugs at?
Well, I can understand that. I have mixed feelings, but I understand why they're doing it.
Well, I have mixed feelings too, and I understand why they're doing it, but Gary brings an interesting question up: is how are they going to pay for it?
Not even the drugs.
I know.
Hmm.
All right, do you walk in
Are
and
they
go,
providing the drugs, or are they just providing the place to
see,
sit?
now that's the one of the little tangent roads you can go down. Are they providing the drugs? And if they are, is it cost free or what?
They've had a lot of experiments in the past about needle exchange programs,
It still doesn't
just to
work.
try to prevent the spread of hepatitis and HIV and other
Right.
things.
Right.
But they weren't providing anything except syringes.
I have rental property in a city called Warren. It's redneck city for what it's worth. You can walk the property and there's enough needles there to start a dispensary in a hospital. They don't
I
train.
mean, it's interesting. I mean, like Nevada has both medical and recreational marijuana at this point.
Arkansas, Gary?
Huh?
Arkansas?
I don't know. What do you mean?
Your property's it in Arkansas?
You said Warren.
Warren, Michigan.
I have to say we have a Warren, Arkansas here.
No, Michigan.
I
So
thought you might have had property in Arkansas.
No.
So Jeff, you still have medical and recreational marijuana?
Yep, in Nevada.
So probably medical's still surviving.
Basically, we had both. Aren't we lucky? And then we got rid of the medical because if you go in and get it, it's no different price. And your insurance don't pay for it. It doesn't pay for it in Michigan. So it's
And they're working on providing marijuana lounges where you can go to smoke it, because tourists come here and they can buy it legally by state law, but they have no place to use it legally. And you don't want to take it back someplace on the plane because that's under federal jurisdiction.
Right.
But you can take it back if you were driving, just not if you were flying.
That, well, depends on the state you go through. Kansas, where I grew up, has been a argument with Colorado. Marijuana, I don't remember which kind, is legal in Colorado. And Kansas has been stopping armored car companies who take the cash from Colorado marijuana sales back to a company headquarters in Missouri someplace. And they intercept these and they confiscate it as illegal drug profits. So it raises all kinds of interesting questions when something's legal in one state, not in another.
And I guess there's no easy way to get around that because Missouri and Kansas are right next to each other.
Right.
I've got a question. How do they get to and from those places without wrecking their tire or killing somebody?
Not sure what you're asking. I mean, these are people who work for some transport company who just are carrying the cash back and forth.
No, I was talking about the free places to smoke the dope or shoot it.
Oh, well,
The cop's gonna be standing outside the door, so you're high, you're busted.
No, they don't do that now on the strip. They could, but they don't.
it's difficult to have a scientific basis for prosecution of driving while under the influence of marijuana, because it can stay in the system even after you're no longer intoxicated on it. It's not like alcohol when they measure your blood alcohol content. There you are. So, outside of the question of it still being illegal as a federal crime, raises some interesting other questions.
I know drug problem's a problem we have in my building.
And so,
No, the federal
they
government.
haven't gotten rid of the illegal marijuana market. I understand there's lots of places in California where they're out in the boondocks growing this stuff. And, well, I mean, these are like the Mexican cartels coming to California to grow marijuana in large organized operations and selling it for less than it sells for legally. And they aren't paying a tax on to the state on what they're selling, so they're making more than the people selling it legally.
Yeah.
And they've got booby traps, armed guards, all kinds of things on these big growing operations out in the boondocks. So it hasn't made the illegal marijuana trade go away.
Which is surprising because I think that was one of the reasons they wanted to legalize is they figured it would curtail and or stop the illegal marijuana sales.
Interrupt you, Ken? Not
No.
Michigan.
Go ahead.
In Michigan, they wanted to do it for one reason: taxes.
Well, money.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to say a while ago, as soon as the federal government figures out how to make money off of marijuana, it'll no longer be against the federal government.
Well, as I said to Black Watch on political, without being too political, you understand they could legalize any drug they want yesterday, tomorrow, next week, the federal government. But there's too many people that are still against that. You know, there's one drug person or drug user that we all look to and say, it doesn't affect him too much. Does anybody know who that really is? Paul McCartney.
He's not the only one.
He's the most vocal about it, though.
Oh, yeah.
And he's the richest, or richest that you know about. But other than that, most people used to smoke marijuana, they smell like shit afterwards. They come into your store, you think, where did these, you know. I have that in all my rental closets, no drugs in the house. You can't get it out of the carpet. We supply the grapes, you can't get them out of the grapes.
Yeah, I think anymore being a homeowner is not near as lucrative as what it used to be.
It depends how you play it, but that's another discussion. It's just like, I will tell everybody a secret, and it's not a joke. And most people think you go bid on a house that's, you know, they've had it repossessed or taxes. Worst two things you can do to buy a house. You find somebody that's going to have repossessed and go get them money and then pay the loan off yourself. They can't come back. In Michigan, if I buy a tax lien, you have 2 years to buy it back. I can't sell it.
Really?
Yep. And I can't rent it for a year because if you come back in 3 months, I got to get my renters out. They're going to sue me. But if I give you money, you sign, you're done, I can pay your loan off and do whatever I want with my house. And most people see that flipping on TV and think they go to the auction and stuff. Those auctions are not permanent. People in Michigan have 2 years to get their house back.
That's, for lack of any other word that comes to mind, crazy.
Yeah.
Well, we have a lot of liberals.
But since you brought up houses and bidding, enough said on that. Let's move on.
If you can figure out, I'm anti-drugs. I don't drink, but there are people that drink that don't overdo it. But do we need something else to try to get high? And if you smoke a cigarette or marijuana, that's your problem. But too many people want to do something else. And I've seen too many people trying to do coke when it was cool. Well, look, I got a little white powder.
Well, I've
What
had
are
the
you doing?
same philosophy on drugs at 62 that I had at about 12. I've never understood why you'd want to put something into your body to make you feel better just for the hell of it. I'm not real
Well,
big on taking medications to repair. I understand the need for medications, but I'm not real keen on it.
well,
I know alcohol. I drank alcohol in the military, so I'm not going to be yes no on that. I've done it. I've never done drugs. Probably, hopefully, other than my medications, I can't say I've never done drugs because I take 72 pills a day. But as far as the marijuana, the heroin, the ecstasy, the cocaine, the whatever, I've never understood that. And my son is an addict.
well,
And
my real question, it's been this since 12, the 10, is why would you put something in your mouth that is not coming at least from the pharmacy?
again,
Not that
I
you would
don't
do
know.
that. Not that you would do that, but
Peer pressure when you're growing up, and then you can get hooked on stuff.
yeah, but I mean,
Yeah, peer pressure has a lot to do with it. But I mean, I just, even with peer pressure, there were certain things I was not going to try.
maybe it's the way I was raised, but I couldn't understand somebody giving me something in a needle and want to snort it, shoot it, or something, and not knowing what was in it.
Right.
It's like, at least if you, I'm not saying I take drugs at the drugstore. I mean, I take prescriptions if I have them, but, let's see, Joe, where did you get that? My friend down the street. Oh, well, shoot. Is he a pharmacist or a doctor? No, he works at a factory. Well, shit, I
Nobody
want
asks
some of
that kind
that.
of questions when they're out buying illicit drugs.
That's why I don't take them. Illicit's the word here.
Yeah.
I will
There's some
say,
nasty stuff out there. People take a drug which would do nothing but maybe get you high,
if you're lucky,
Yeah.
and they cut it with something that's truly damaging.
that's the point.
Yeah.
I mean, especially syringes, but anything I mean, I'm not wholly against marijuana. Never used it, but I'm gonna take a pill. I don't know what's inside of it, or I'm gonna snort something I can't get back out, or shoot something. Wait a minute, how do I get that out? It's burning. I don't mean just there, but for my body. Is there a way to get it back out once you put it in?
But there are some people that are born with what you might call addictive personalities. I don't know that that's the right word, but
I will agree with you, seriously.
there are people who physiologically are just built that they can become addicted to something more easily than other people, I think. I have seen that in my own family.
I'm addicted to coffee, and I know that's not the same thing, but
Well, I'll give you an example of my own. I used to smoke a pipe for a long time.
yeah, but they look cool.
Well, but on the other hand, I quit 30 years ago. I got cancer as a result of having done it for a while. And when I talk about it right now, I'm salivating. My body remembers that it wants that nicotine. I can resist it at this point without much effort. But every time I talk about what used to happen, I actually salivate.
I believe you.
And that's an addicting, that's an addictive reaction.
Greg is looking at pills.
Melatonin?
Made in China, fly at Walmart.
Well, that's not surprising.
That makes sense.
But I thought Walmart was on a everything's made in the USA kicker here a while back. Or did
Well,
I?
they like to tout how much stuff they buy that's made
They
in
like to
America.
say
but,
they buy it from the US, but they don't.
I think they actually were saying how high a percentage, not that it was all.
But I mean, we live in a global economy, like it or not. People are going to buy stuff where it costs least.
Well, sure.
Well, you all are my bartender tonight. I had one today. my old department IT, we're hiring a very ad for a very experienced C#, C++, C#, Java programmer. All three you have to understand. And I'm not going to go into what other specifics of knowledge of the business the person has to have. But, and I'm not going to say the salary, but if you look at Google, you'll say, oh my God. And that's the range.
Is this a remote position or a walk-in position?
It's for the first X amount of years, it's on site because we're starting another, not a business, but we're doing some stuff with some of our customers and between us and them. Anyway, we have I didn't even know this. We have a new human resource drone, idiot, stupid, no longer working here, literally. And she put on the pay range for the job. Okay. Pay range for the company from top to bottom.
So everybody knows everybody's salary now?
Well, she didn't put Joe makes this, Ken makes this, Gary makes this. Pay range for the company. Part-time intern to top of the line salary.
Is that why she's no longer employed, or was she on her way out and thought she'd just do something funny?
Well, she's fairly new. She's been there like 2 months, and she is out of a job.
Yeah, Lorna, we were looking at her schedule for tomorrow, and half the people that are scheduled are no longer working there, and tomorrow's the 9th of the month.
Yeah.
That's just stupid. I mean, just stupid. Okay, you talked me into it. Let's talk about housing. Sure. Personally think it should be against the law to list your house at 175 if you're only going to accept bids over 200,000. I know there are people that will get upset about that, but that's wrong. That's clearly clickbait, switchbait, bait and hook, whatever you want to call it. And it's wrong.
Oh, capitalism.
I got nothing against you making 200 grand for your house, but you should list it at 200 grand for your house. You shouldn't lure in anyone, and not because it happened to us, but you should not lure in anyone that's going to think, oh, I have a chance of getting this, when you already have it set in your mind you're only accepting bids for X amount of dollars. Point in case, we got a notification date for a house, and then it was asterisk. However, min bid 205K. They were asking.
I guess I'd like to say 90% agree with her because I think it's stupid. But if you list it for what you want, literally, you want 205. If somebody comes in offers 210, what do?
You take it. You're not. You listed it what you felt was fair. It's just like our house. I listed it at 78.5. If someone would come along and said I want 85, I would have jumped on that in a heartbeat. If there's a difference between someone overbidding or over offering your asking price, as opposed to I'm going to list my house for $50,000, but I'm not taking any less than $90,000.
Are you sure? I don't know. Are you sure that went up at the same time as the house, or it went up later?
I think it's a consequence of the market we're in right now. People are able to do that.
Oh, sure.
In other words, did I list it at 175 and then you came back and said 2 and I changed the multi-list?
No, because it's still that house right now today that was supposedly had an offer accepted on it is still on the market today. Not pending. It's on the active market. And that's wrong.
Yeah. Depends on how pre-qualified the workers. Like 2 or 3 pre-qualified. One is you can lock in today and get loans. No, I'm serious. I'm Gary, give me a loan.
No, I was laughing at Robert. He wants to talk about snow, but no, I agree. It depends if you're pre-qualified and fully qualified, 2 different things.
Yeah.
You know, it's just the way that I look at things. If I would have wanted 85,000 and I list the house for 85, and someone says I really want your house, I'll give you 90. Well, of course I take it. I'm not going to say no. I'm only going to take 85.
Not this market, but like 8 years ago,
Not in any market.
No, 8 years ago, I had one guy, I'll never forget, pre-qualified. We had his bank pre-qualified. He didn't get the loan.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. I mean, I think the pre-qualifications is just a paper drill to get people to go look at houses and make offers. I don't know. I'm not going to really look into it and figure out what the whole process is. I know what we're pre-qualified for. I also know what we can afford. And the two numbers don't even come close to matching. I'm going to go grab a water. I will be right back. Alex, take over chat.
Well, when we bought this house out
Or
here,
Jeff.
we got qualified, and yet it took us 2.5 more weeks to get fully qualified. It's a good thing for whatever reason, the house we bought, nobody else seemed to be interested in, which for us was a good thing because we had leverage on the negotiation. But unknown to the sellers, I was having a hell of a time getting fully qualified because the bank was just being ridiculous about the kind of information that they wanted. We eventually got it all done, but I was sitting there scratching my head saying, this is 1, 2, 3. This was the 4th house I have bought during my lifetime, and I've never had anything like this before.
Exactly. I mean, but yet your
And when
realtor,
we refinanced last year, it's not the same thing exactly, but we got the deal done in a day.
exactly. I mean, but still,
But here's an example. We were renting this little place in South Carolina, and they wanted 18 months worth of rental receipts. Okay, that shows we were able to make a payment on time, yada yada.
and for that amount,
But once we got that done, then they wanted a copy of the original rental agreement to verify that we were paying what had been agreed upon. Well, if I can provide you with 4 years worth of rental receipts, don't you think I've been paying what was agreed upon, or the landlord would have kicked our asses out?
yeah.
I mean, it's just some of that stuff. And then I have a small pension from the place I worked in East Tennessee, and they wanted a letter from the company stating that that was going to last at least another 3 years. You know, just stuff like that. It was odd. And we
Well,
eventually got it all done, but it just seemed very strange to me.
That's one thing that bothers me in this world is verification. Why do you need to verify? I just told you. Yeah, but what if you're not telling the truth? We need to verify so they tell us. Like, why? I just keep oh.
Yeah.
Well, and I mean, like on the pension, I had my 1099 forms for the pension, which I had been getting since 2000. And there it is. But you want a letter guaranteeing the pension's going to be paid for at least another 3 years?
Right. Yeah.
You know, and well, you know.
So I happen to know people that work at the bank, and I'm going to have them verify for me something that's totally inaccurate, but your company's going to accept it because it was verified by the bank. And I'm just saying, I agree with what Rick said. I just told you it's verified. No. We got to talk to 3 people. Hey, Jeff, Alex from so-and-so is going to call you. Please verify this. All right, thanks. It's not verifiable, but Jeff says it is. Alex accepts it.
Well, you know what they don't do very much anymore is references at work. Because I would hope you give us 3 names of people that don't hate you. Ken's a blue-haired idiot, doesn't know his name, doesn't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. I think the thing, I don't know if I haven't been in that position for a long time, but I used to get frustrated about, hey, Alex, I've got an application here from Greg Guy. He says he used to work for you. What can you tell me about it? By law, you can't really tell crap about it because it's a dumb law. Greg's the worst employee that ever existed, but I can't tell you that. Oh, Greg, yeah, he showed up for work every day. Well, what was his work ethic like? Oh, he showed up every day.
Well, there's a clue right there.
Maybe, yeah. But I mean, it's so restrictive of what you can and cannot tell people. Hey, I want to tell you, do not hire Greg. You can't tell him that, though. You can't.
Well, I have a favorite of mine right now. They're talking about in government. My wife and I get a lot of things from different Kentucky senators, congressmen, same with Florida, where my dad's house I inherited. And they're trying to get something passed in the Senate that if you paid rent, they want that reported on your credit, which I agree personally, but on the business side, I gotta now report your thing to the credit union or credit bureau, which is a pain in the
more work
butt.
for you.
Huh?
Makes you more work if you have to comply
Yep.
with that.
And if I do something wrong, we paid 800 instead of 500, by mistake, I say 500, he's gonna be on me, because I did it wrong. But yet, I mean, just the past 2 years, I've lost 18 months of rent from a few people because of COVID.
Yeah.
But here's the joke: the law that they went by is if, let's say you have disability, I don't know if you do, or retirement, don't know if you do, but you're not working. So let's say Lorna loses her job, but you make 100 grand a year in your house right now. You can afford to pay your house payment.
I'm sure I could.
I had one person whose wife lost her job. She was working part-time in a little store with her friend. And the husband worked at Ford as a design engineer, probably making 180. And, senior engineer. And they stopped paying rent on a house.
Using the loophole that someone lost their job from COVID and therefore they are going to have to pay it.
Nope.
So that COVID law ended with us a couple of months ago, and now we have people in this building scrambling to get their rent paid because they're 6 months behind. Now they're calling their attorneys like, I gotta pay my rent, I owe them $30,000.
Well, they did for me.
We got to circle back to that 1 second. We have to get in an obligatory mention of snow. The sponsor just called me and said, please mention snow. I am sponsoring your channel tonight. So I've met that.
Charleston in Las Vegas.
Yeah, we still have snow on the ground here. Okay, that's done. Let's move on.
That's snow on the.
Speaking of snow, Rick, how much do you have left?
I'm not sure, being they got it almost 43 degrees today. It was a pretty nice day, so.
Yeah, I was out shoveling snow in shorts and a t-shirt. Seriously.
We were 55 today.
It was 64 here today, 64 in Arkansas
We're
today.
like 72 here.
Oh, shut up.
Here in airport.
So,
31.
circling back as I said we would, I've never understood why someone who had the means and ability to pay, let's just say, the bills, saw an opportunity that, because of COVID, I don't have to pay the bills because I don't have my job, even though I still have the means to pay it. Did they not think at some point in time, this is all going to go full circle and they're going to want the money for the bills?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean.
And how many people quit their job? Now, this is politics. How many people quit their job because they're worried about COVID, or quit their job because they want to stay home?
There's been a lot of that happening around here.
Well, a couple million.
Nobody in my county wants to work anymore. They got all this free government assistance for the last year and a half, and they say it's going to continue. So, in the long ways, they think they make more that way than sitting in front of a cash register for 8 hours a day. Okay.
Again, don't you think that at some point in time is going to catch up to them?
They don't think that though.
I don't get it.
Our hospital is losing people left and right.
All
One,
right.
they don't want to be there because of the COVID anymore, but they think it's more of an advantage not to be working than working.
And you got people that can work, are physically able to get out every day and go get a job working at wherever. That don't want to work, but you got people like me that are physically disabled and been physically disabled all their lives that want to work, that want to get out and get a job at work.
I couldn't stand not working. I know there's going to be the day pretty soon here that I probably won't be, but I don't know. For now, I just like getting up in the morning. No, I got 10 hours ahead of me that I'm going to be working. And it's not that hard, it's not that strenuous, but I look forward to getting out of bed in the morning knowing I got something to do for the day. Instead of being like a guy that lives here on 6th floor Lou, he could work if he wanted to, I guess. I don't know, I guess he'd rather live on Social Security, which there's reasons for it. I'm not prejudiced either way, but I've asked him, don't you ever get bored during the day? Like,
No.
yeah, there's days. Don't you get bored doing what you're doing? Never. I could do this for the next 20 years. I'd be happy with it.
You saying that
I
about?
could not get out of bed at 6. He could not get out of bed at 6:30 every single day like I do. Said, how do you do it? Said, I don't anymore. It's all automatic.
I guess I've been retired about 9 years. I was sort of involuntarily retired. Fortunately, I was near enough to take in Social Security. It didn't hurt us bad, but I actually miss working.
At times I do too. At times.
I mean, now the last job I had, I don't miss it. It was the worst job I ever had for a while. Yeah, I did get a transfer after a while in that job, and my new boss was much better to work for. But there just wasn't any work. I've always worked for federal government contractors my whole career, Department of Energy contractors, and just depends on the ups and downs of the funding there. And I wasn't working directly for a big operation. We were sort of a subcontractor, sort of like a job shop. And the problem was the people we were working for, they got to tell you what the job was, how long it should take, and how much they wanted to pay. And if you couldn't get it done within the amount that they wanted to pay, they didn't want you. They would rather take a new guy fresh out of school who didn't know squat about what he was doing.
Right.
By comparison, but who cost half as much as I did. And I learned that the kind of things I was doing, they didn't want the right answer, which is how I had worked my whole life. And they wanted something that was maybe close, but no cigar sort of answer. And they just wanted it within the money that they had available. And that is, and I didn't grasp that in time, the last job I was at. That's what led to my demise. But
Rick saying that about
live and learn.
Being bored. My brother has a friend that he's met through the vinyl record industry whose dad owns his own business. Now, Ivan is probably 50 years old-ish, okay? Hadn't worked a day in his life because his dad has always provided for him. Always. He was telling me recently that his dad was going on vacation to Florida, so he gave his son $30,000 while he was to live while he was gone. Then he gave him another 10 grand because he was afraid that the $30,000 wouldn't last. Then he gave him another 10 grand.
Jesus.
Do what?
How long is he going to be gone? A year?
2 months. But here's the sad part. Ivan's fully capable of working. Okay? But because his dad takes care of him and you know, and then some, his dad bought him a condo, and then he negotiated to buy the other half of the condo next to that that was, you know, wall to wall backed up to that condo, so they could open it up and have one big condo. So what, roughly $50,000 for 2 months. Didn't last. He ran out of money. And he doesn't do drugs. He doesn't do anything illegal. He just, oh, look, there's a $700,000. I'm buying it. What are you going to do with it? I don't know, but I'm buying it. And he won't buy it. He'll call Kevin, my brother Kevin. He'll go, Kevin, I just saw this REM album, $750. Can you buy it for me? He goes, well, yeah, you give me the money, I'll buy it for you. No problem. It'll be right there.
Why can't he buy it?
Rick, I honestly don't know. I do not get it. He's told me many stories about this guy. And when we were there a couple weeks ago, he said, "Hey, I need you to do me a favor. I need to run this over to Ivan because he bought it. And I can't, do it. Do you mind doing it?" I'm like, "Nope, not at all." And he literally comes running out of the garage, takes the album, says, "Thanks, Kevin. I'll send you some more money. We're good, right?" "Yep." And scutters back into the garage. Never understood.
Hey, you can give the money to your brother.
Yeah, really. He didn't pay me any money. What are you talking about?
Maybe there's drugs inside the album.
Maybe the money for the album to give to your brother or something.
Yeah. Do what, Gary?
Maybe there's drugs inside the album.
No, there's not.
And you carried a drug deal.
Pretty sure I wasn't, but
I
find it's humorous that guy built an empire doing what he does, and he just pacifies his son with everything. And the son, me personally, my self-worth would be about this much if someone did that for me.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's being generous. I do not get it. Do not get it. I mean, I believe in helping people, but you don't do for people. At least I don't think you do. I don't know. I don't know, Robert. Robert just asks what's going to happen when Daddy dies. I don't know. Probably will be written in the will that whoever takes over the company will make sure that Ivan gets $75,000 a month to buy records with. Who knows? Who knows? Just crazy. And more than likely, it's a tax write-off for his dad. I mean, if you think about it. Are you working tonight, Robert? What's the day? Tuesday, Wednesday? What? I'm so day behind.
Tuesday.
He's not.
Isn't? Okay. Yeah, March 3rd will be upon us before we know it, and Ken and Lauren will be living in a van down by the river.
Instead of a cardboard box, get a light sign. It's a lot more warm. It's a lot warmer.
Yeah. You'll be living down by the river. I want you to bring some seafood.
River's freshwater supposedly and not salt, so there would be no seafood. Now, if we were living down by the ocean, which is not in Indiana, but then I could do that.
What do you call
fish? You don't get it. You don't get it.
Well, apparently not.
That means any food that you see, I want you to bring it to me.
Oh.
Oh yeah, you seafood, you get it. Seafood.
All those in favor of the waiting room say aye. All those opposed? And Alex, your vote doesn't count. That's an old one.
When's your home inspection? Thursday?
Thursday.
But so you looked at something remotely?
Yeah, my sister went yesterday and looked at a place, but
well, I know you said that there was one place she wouldn't even go in.
Yeah, she didn't even go in it. I got a notification today. I looked at it and it looks nice, but the HOA, they didn't say how much, but just the mere fact it has an HOA, unless it's $1 a year or something, I just don't want to stay away with it.
Well,
And it didn't.
In some ways, I would prefer not to have one in Vegas.
Well, it didn't have a garage either. So
fortunately, we're in one that doesn't cost a lot. The other house we had started at about $45 a month when we bought it. By the time we sold it, it was nearing $60 a month. And I assume it's near $90 a month now because that was 2013 we sold it.
We had one, and literally, they measured our wood pile. And you couldn't even see it from the street, but it's like, they would measure, come on our property, which they had no right to measure the wood pile.
No, that seems kind of.
Yeah, well, I got several nasty grams from the other homeowners association, the other place we had. There was a misunderstanding. It was a corner lot. And there were small trees, shrubs, whatever, outside the wall. I mean, being my first experience with an HOA, I thought all that was common area. It wasn't. It was my responsibility. And so when it didn't get trimmed, I got notified. But we took care of that. But the thing that pissed me off was that I get a letter about the 1st of December one year saying there's a little rust showing on the gate in the side yard.
Oh no.
Well, so anyway, and I knew it was there, and it was just starting to show, and so I send them a letter back and say, I understand it's there, but paint sticks better when it's warm. You mind if I paint that in the spring? Get a letter back that says, if this isn't fixed within 10 days, we're going to start to fine you, and if you don't pay the fines, we'll put a lien on your property.
We had,
And so I was out there painting the gate in the middle of December. It didn't take long, but it was just a nuisance.
Yeah.
we had one, oh God, 15, 20 years ago, and our sprinkler was stuck, one of the sprinklers, and it was hitting my wife's backyard perfectly. She said, leave it, I want it there, I named it. They came and threatened us, like you said, fine, and so we did get a pro to come to it, because I'm not dealing with it. Somebody had actually come in one night and attached us to the, we were at the incoming of the sub, and we were actually paying for all the sub increases. You know, buyers in the middle, the island just came in. So I cut that off, said, it ain't happening. They sent us another one charging us for getting rid of their stuff. I said, there's nothing here that's causing me to pay for it. And then they started finding me, we gotta take them to court. Of course, we won, but.
Yeah, well, then you run the situation. The first house we had out here in the neighborhood, there were 2 neighbors who didn't get along. And so the result was one of these neighbors would walk the neighborhood writing down violations and then call the HOA office.
Mm-hmm.
And so she was the cause of most of the grief in the neighborhood. The HOA I'm in now really probably doesn't enforce things well enough, in my opinion. There's not a lot bad going on near me, but there have been some things that have happened in the neighborhood, not on my block, that probably weren't entirely kosher under the HOA rules, but on the other hand, I'm not looking at them, so I'm not going to report them.
We had a colonial type house, and our front door was so big and right, the front door was probably 42 inches, I would guess. Well, we took it out, and there was lights on both sides, or windows.
Yep.
We took the whole thing out and put French doors in, and everybody loved it. They didn't like it because we did it without asking. You know.
So now instead of just getting the permit to do things from the city, you've got to get permission from your HOA to do stuff like that?
Depends on nuts they are, you know.
If you change anything noticeable, basically on the outside,
Like the paint,
Front door.
front door?
paint, front door, shrubbery. And here, you have to have something that's suitable for the climate or whatever. I mean, ours isn't this bad. The other one had lists of what types of plants you can have by species.
And I bet you can't have natural grass either, can you?
Well, we have natural grass at this point. Any new developments from now on in the whole county, no grass is allowed.
No watering.
No watering, yeah. The water shortage.
So probably in the next year or so, we'll take out the little patch we have in the front. The HOAs are having to adapt. All of them are going to be probably forced into allowing artificial grass, so long as it looks decent.
Right.
And the other place we lived up in Summerlin out here, there was no artificial grass allowed. Period.
Give it time.
So, but times have changed on that stuff. If you don't like HOAs, that's fine. I don't have any argument with you. But if you're going to get into one, you do need to know what you're getting into. That's the only thing.
Read the paperwork.
Got to go to a sponsorship break, so I brought up the picture of the snow so that we can mention the snow once again. This is I'm obligated to do this. I have a sponsor, so there it is. All right.
Where is it? Does it say?
I don't think they told me I had to say that. I just have to mention snow.
I like the mountains in the background. Pretty.
Yeah, it was. So there's a little bit of behind the scenes look at what it takes to put this little show on.
It's a recording studio, Tim.
What? I was told my sponsor told me this is legitimate. They said this is what they do to sponsor. What? This is a recording studio? Oh, I'll be right back. I gotta go make a phone call. Where's my phone at? Yeah, damn it.
Batman.
Yeah, I did my part.
Oh, I can't find my phone. Oh well, guess I'll call him later.
Hey, Greg, is that funny else?
That what?
What are you eating?
Salt and vinegar chips.
Those are the best ones.
Here again, harkens back to who in their right mind was like, hey Jeff, why don't you put some salt and vinegar on them potato chips and tell me what you think? Who thought of these things?
Who thought of eating an egg?
Barbecue, I can kind of see. Green onion, sour cream, I can kind of see. Vinegar and salt.
It's very good, actually.
I'm just still trying to.
I also like salt and vinegar.
I have a craving for salty and sour flavors. I like Middle Eastern flavoring in foods. Some of the Asian foods are more sour. All depends on what you like for your taste buds.
True. This is OD chat, by the way. It's not food.
Yeah, I would like almost anything too, including the spicy stuff, but my colitis don't like it. It quickly reminds me I ate something I shouldn't have. Ketchup especially. If I have too much ketchup on my fries, about a half hour later, I know I had too much ketchup.
I like that one. The fabulous Las Vegas sign.
Is that a grill or a cheeseburger?
Seen an interview with the lady who designed that. I think she actually gave away the rights to it at some point.
Probably didn't even think anything about it.
I mean, it was done a long time ago.
Oh
And
gosh, yes.
you see knockoffs of it on company trucks, all kinds of things.
Oh yeah.
Las Vegas Pest Control, Las Vegas this or that, whatever. Plumbing and heating. I think there's someplace, yeah, you said it's actually a Stout.
Stout's Electric, yeah, I seen that.
Stout
I've got
Electric.
pictures of it somewhere. I should have went up to him and said, yeah, I just moved here from Indiana. We're related somehow. I just need your job. In today's environment, probably get one.
So how late did Lauren work tonight?
I think she walked out the door at 10:20.
Instead of 10, right?
Well, she scheduled off at 10. It's a twofold thing. One, nobody shows up for work on time on all three shifts. If the 6 o'clock shift shows up at 6:10, 6:15, they're considered on time. Lauren herself, if she shows up by 2:15, that's a good day for her. If the knock shift comes in at 10:15, 10:30, 10:40, they accept it. And herein lies the problem. They should put a stop to it to include Lauren. They should say your work day starts at 2. You need to be here ready to work at 2. But it doesn't happen.
So is that Bonnie going tonight?
It's one of my biggest pet peeves. I've never understood why, if you know you got to be at work at 2, you don't walk out the door at 2:08. You know. Well, everybody does it. Okay, everybody's jumping off the roof. Are you joining everybody jumping off the roof? You know. And then it snowballs because 6 turns into 6:15. It turns into 6:30. It turns into 6:40, and there are people there like Lorna that will stick around because she doesn't want the residents and patients to not be taken care of. Whereas everybody else was, oh, my shift's over, gotta go, and they leave. So,
Even if they came in late?
yeah, well, they don't care about the money. They're there for what little bit of money they get. They don't care.
Are they clocking in and clocking out?
I would hope so. Now they've got the 7-minute rule. You know what that is, right? 7 minutes before, 7 minutes after is the same time. So if you clock in at 8 minutes before, you're actually going to get paid for more than if you clock in at 6. If you clock in at 8 after, you get paid, I think it's 15 minutes, which is the dumbest thing ever, but it's called the 7-minute rule.
Okay.
And it was instituted years and years and years and years and years ago because of warehouses that had hundreds of people literally that worked at a shift, so they started letting people clock in 7 minutes early, and they'd allow people 7 minutes after to clock out, and you still get paid the same. And then people got smart and figured out, oh, I can clock in at 8 minutes before and 8 minutes after, and it adds up after a daily basis. They started making really good money, so that got into. Well, most of the nursing industry still carries the 7-minute rule.
Didn't know that. I was always salaried, so
Yes,
I
no.
had to be there.
Yeah, what
4
few salary
hours
positions
sometimes.
I had, I was one of these that said, okay, so if I get everything I need done by 4 o'clock Thursday, I can take Friday off, correct? Well, no. Well, why not? I got the job is done. Why do I need to be here? Well, you're on salary, so the job is done. Why do I need to be here? Well, you're on salary.
And all the years I worked, I only had one job that ever paid overtime.
Oh, I had a.
That was only if we were asked to work large amounts of overtime. When I first got to that job, the first company I was with, you could get overtime if you were asked to work, but only after the first 5 hours. First 5 hours you gave them.
An hour a day.
Yeah, basically it was. Yeah.
So, and they were salaried.
Yeah, overtime rules vary state to state.
Overtime. We didn't get time and a half.
Most of it used to be based off 40 hours. In California, it's based on an 8-hour basis. If you work overtime, if your first 8 hours, it's straight pay. If you work 9 hours, that 9th hour is at time and a half. If you work,
it didn't average over a week or something?
Daily.
I got one for you at Ford. Yeah, I'm happy you found anything of this. People, and this was in the 70s, well, 78 and 79, I'm sure this is what I was doing. I was working in the plant, computers with, analyst type stuff there. And you would work 8 hours. Well, because of the way certain machines work, this wasn't a assembly line, other things. You might get done from 7:30 to 11:30, 12 o'clock in the afternoon, during lunch. That was your 8 hours. And then the foreman would say, hey, you want to work another couple hours? That'd be another hour. But your production was enough for 2 hours. Some of these guys should have worked 7:30 to 3:30. Go home at 3 o'clock-ish with like 16 hours of pay because they made that much production.
Yep.
And Ford, because they were getting 4 hours, obviously the production of that machine is too low.
Yeah.
And anything over 8 was time and a half. Anything over 16 was double time.
Speaking about house pricing earlier, And there's a show on HGTV, one of them, it's called Unsellable Houses or something. It's these two twin sisters up in the Northwest someplace that are realtors. And they like to brag that almost all of their listings sell above list price, to which my response is, you obviously aren't listing them high enough.
I would agree with that statement.
Yeah.
So,
I.
Hey, we'll be back.
You know approximately when, so we know about when we need to end the show.
Whenever you want to, but it'll probably be at least a few minutes.
Got it. All right, we'll be here. Yeah, Unsellable Houses is on HGTV. It doesn't say where Lindsay Lamb and Leslie Davis, it looks like.
yeah, they're twin sisters, and they're up Oregon or Washington, up in the Northwest someplace. So, and it's kind of an interesting show what they do.
Well, here
They go in,
again.
at least in the show, and say if your mom died and you're having a problem selling your mom's house because it's outdated, this and that and the other thing, they'll go in and they have a contractor they use to fix them up, and they put their own money into it, fix it up to whatever they think it needs. And then when it sells, they get their money back, and then anything over that they split with the owner.
Which is probably very little.
Well, some of the ones that they show sell for $100,000 over list.
Wouldn't that mean they kind of underlisted it by $100,000?
Well, that was kind of my opinion.
I mean, that's kind of how I look at that.
Yes.
Obviously, that's clearly the way the real estate industry is going. Is we're just gonna sell my house and I'm gonna list it for a penny and not take bids over or under $100K. I mean, I know that's a wide variety of an example.
I wonder how much of that is owners and how much are the realtors pushing them to do that. And I don't know the answer to that question.
Well, it's like, I'm sure every state has it. The one here in Illinois is Ryan Davis Real Estate. We guarantee we'll sell your house in 48 hours. That's because they offer you well below market value of your house. On the 49th hour, they're going to offer that to you. So let's just say our house is worth $75,000. After 48 hours, they're going to give me $70,000. Guaranteed sell, but I'm taking a loss.
It's interesting, we get mailers all the time for this place called Open Door.
Yeah.
And sell your house quick, don't care what the condition is, blah, 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 blah. And I'm saying, yeah, well, you guys obviously are in it to make money.
Sure.
And so you're going to pay me less than it's going to go for under multiple listing service or whatever.
Yep.
And then you're going to raise the price when you sell it.
Of course. Yeah.
And so you're making the money on it. And not me, you know.
Yep. Yep.
Oh, and market keeps going out here. Median house price in Las Vegas now is $435,000.
Crazy. Crazy. All right, let me give it real
Median
quick.
condo price is $243,000.
Let me give a quick shout out to Tony. Thank you for watching. Robert, who was in the Zoom chat with us. I believe that was the only two people I've seen in chat. Anyone else that may have been sitting in chat but not saying anything. No names being mentioned here because I really don't know for sure. Thank you for being here. I'm going to keep it short at right around an hour, and we're just barely over an hour as the little clock in the lower right-hand corner indicates. See you guys tomorrow night, maybe early, depending on how the events of the day go. And YouTube stream has ended.